to the Friday edition of the Art Lewis Show. On the road today, I should say on the lot today, we're at the parking lot of St. Demetrius Greek Orthodox Church because it is that time again, Saginaw. Saginaw's Greek Festival runs today through the 21st, which is Sunday, and lots of wonderful things going on that we're going to talk about throughout the morning. Our broadcast, by the way, sponsored by our friends at Wolf Isles, 5818 State Street in Saginaw. And later on, we'll have some guests from the Greek Festival after the 10 o'clock news. But for this hour, as we do every year at this time, and it just seems like yesterday we were doing this, I invite to join me this morning the officiant, the priest here at St. Demetrius Greek Orthodox Church, Father Timothy Cook. Father, good morning.
Good morning, Art. It's good to be back again.
Like yesterday.
It feels like yesterday. It goes faster every year.
So, but before we get into some of the deeper topics, how's your family?
My family is great.
You have how many kids now?
We have 5. No more since last year.
No more. Okay, 5. Yeah, that's the number I remembered. And they range in age from?
My oldest is turning 14 in just a few weeks. My youngest is 2.
Wow. Keeps you busy. And your wife.
My wife more than me, probably, but yes.
So we're sitting here at St. Demetrius, and I ask this every year, and every year I'm surprised at how well it's doing. How is your congregation? Stable?
The congregation is growing, which is a beautiful thing. It's a little more work, but that's much better than no work at all. So
I would guess that's true. Is it, when you see the growth, is it from the Greek community, or are we getting non-Greeks into Greek Orthodoxism?
There's some, the usual family growth from within the community. Most of the growth is coming from outside, really from people from all over. No particular, I can't point to a particular group as being where we're getting more, say, Baptists or Presbyterians or Irish.
Mostly believers coming in, though.
Not necessarily. I confess I haven't done an exact study of whether it's churched or unchurched, but there's a good percentage of both. People who grew up what we would describe as nuns, N-O-N-E-S. That is, they have no religious background whatsoever. And some who are coming from a previous experience of Christ and looking for something deeper.
And, it seems to me, and we touched on this before the show, because there's been national poll after national poll showing that America has been moving away from religion.
For decades,
Yet, here we sit, you have growth in your church. I've heard that there's been growth in some of the Catholic churches, and certainly some of the non-denominational type churches have seen pretty significant growth, which is good news instead of all the negative.
No, I think I get some data. We were part of a study studying exactly church growth and church recovery post-COVID, and most of the news from that has been good. Congregations are recovering to pre-COVID status. Congregations are even growing past that. I don't know specifics about other denominations because that's kind of outside my wheelhouse. And I couldn't give you specific numbers for the Orthodox Church either, but broadly speaking, Orthodox churches across the country are seeing tremendous interest and tremendous growth, more or less across the board. Some places more than others. So, for example, I heard of a church in California that received 150 people into the church on Easter. And another one in Carolina, I think there was 140.
Sounds wonderful, but it's tough on the church, isn't it?
Well, it's challenging for the church. It's not tough on the church. Growth of, when you're growing that fast, it presents different challenges than growing slower or anything else. But good challenges. One of those. These are the challenges we want to have. So,
by definition, when you say the Orthodox Church, it's not just the Greek Orthodox Church, is it?
Right. So the Orthodox Church I'll use the technical terms, and if it doesn't make sense, let me know. But the Orthodox Church is the communion, and I think there are 17 local churches. They're called local churches. You might also call them independent churches. There is no one person or one church at the head of all of it, so there's no equivalent to the Pope. Each church rules itself, but they are all in communion. They're all the same faith, the same church. So the church in Greece is governed by the Archbishop in Athens, and there is no one else who has authority over that. But he is no less, that is no less the Orthodox Church than the church in Moscow, the church in Constantinople, Alexandria, etc.
So if I were of that faith, and I were going to come to Father Cook's service here at St. Demetrius, and then the following week I went to a Russian Orthodox church, other than the language, would there be a difference?
There are some slight liturgical differences, but nothing substantial, no.
So the orthodoxy is orthodoxy.
Orthodoxy is orthodoxy.
And in terms of the United States, have we seen a growth in orthodoxy in this country?
In recent years, yes. It's if you were to track it over a longer time period, it kind of goes up and down. It really depends on where you are. So the church, because the church came to America primarily through immigrants. Right. There was the Russian mission to Alaska, which was very fruitful. That
started it.
That was, well, actually the first Orthodox Christians in America, I think, were actually in Florida. There were some Greek sponge divers that were brought over to dive for pearls.
And I know exactly where they were, too. Oh, what's the name of that town? Because I actually went on a boat trip on one of those sponge diving things. And that, what is the name of that town? It's north of Tampa. I can't remember.
I want to say St. Augustine, but I think that's wrong.
It is. There was a very, very famous Greek restaurant there. Huge Greek restaurant.
There's still a shrine there. Actually, that's where we usually get our little plastic bottles for holy water every year.
Oh, is that right?
But yeah, so the Orthodox mission from Russia to Alaska was the first establishment of the church, and that spread down the west coast. But most of the
so I assume.
But they came by immigrants after that.
Right, but I assume as those immigrants come, the Russian Orthodox Church is established as they come into the United States, or into Alaska anyway. So when the Greeks migrate over, they bring the Greek Orthodox Church.
Kind of. Initially, I think everybody was actually under the Russians. But then when the Tsar fell and the Communist Revolution happened, all the support got cut off, and everything that was starting to at least move in the direction of one unity
one church, yeah.
in America, it kind of splintered. And you end up with, and I'm really oversimplifying this. So
that's all right.
But
that's fine.
What you end up with is the Greeks send back home for a priest, the Bulgarians send back home for a priest. They end up sending bishops over, and you end up with the multiple jurisdictions all in America, which is not actually the way that it's supposed to be. But broadly speaking, everybody gets along, and we're working on fixing it. But
do you ever see the day where there'll be unity in the Orthodox churches?
I hope.
One head?
I hope so, but that sort of thing, change happens slowly because we're trying to do it very carefully. And my experience with stuff like this is that it goes slowly, and then all of a sudden it's done.
Yeah. We're talking
that's over my head, so.
We're talking to Father Timothy Cook here at St. Demetrius Greek Orthodox Church. The Greek Festival gets underway today, and our broadcast brought to you by Wolfiles. We'll tell you what's happening there in a couple of moments here. But today, the Greek Festival starts at noon, runs till 11 p.m. Tomorrow, noon to 11 p.m., and Sunday, noon to 4 p.m., and admission for 12 and below are free. Free admission for all until 4 p.m. the day. After 4 o'clock, it's $3 per person, and also there's lots of fantastic food, from gyros to all kinds of. I used to know how to pronounce all these things, but let's see how I do, Father. Pasticcio, baked layers of pasta, seasoned beef with bechamel sauce. So far, so good. Moussaka. Moussaka. Layers of sautéed eggplant, aromatic meat mixture, and topped with bechamel sauce. Spanakopita.
Bravo.
Oh, thank you very much. Triangle-shaped layers of phyllo dough filled with spinach, feta, and herbs. Tiropita. Triangle-shaped layers of phyllo dough filled with feta cheese. Dolmatas. Dough?
You're doing great.
Stuffed grape leaves filled with beef and rice and then baked in a light lemon sauce. Lucamadas.
You're 10 for 10 so far.
Oh, well, they're yummy fried balls of dough glazed with honey and cinnamon syrup. And then the other one that I think I can pronounce, sampler platter. I think I got that one. Anyway, it's all here and lots of entertainment. There'll be dancing, music throughout the festival. And look at the weather. Is this really the Greek festival? As I mentioned, our broadcast brought to you by Wofiles. They have Gravely residential models up to $300 off right now. Gravely Pro Turn commercial models up to $4,000 off. Cub Cadet Riders $100 off, and Steel RZ 560K zero turns at $2,500 off. Also have deals on lots of Steel handhelds that we'll tell you about. Wofiles, 5818 State Street in Saginaw. As we broadcast today from the 2026 edition of Saginaw's Greek Festival.
For 10 years.
And we're back with you here at St. Demetrius Greek Orthodox Church for the Greek Festival opening up at noon today. With me, Father Timothy Cook. I think I ask this every year, but I'm fascinated by it. At what point did Orthodoxy separate from Catholicism? Or do you view it as the other way around? Catholicism separated from Orthodoxy?
I think we'd probably say the other way around. If you're looking for a date, the date that's usually given is 1054, because that's the date when the Catholic cardinal who was the legate to Constantinople excommunicated the patriarch, and I think the patriarch later excommunicated the pope. Though
A lot of
it being 1054, and not like we have instantaneous communication. As it turns out, the pope that cardinal was representing had actually died a few weeks before, but doesn't change anything. It's just one of those interesting tidbits of history, kind of like how the Battle of New Orleans was fought after the War of 1812 had technically ended, but that had been already happening for a long time. You can see the first signs of the split coming in the 9th century, and you can see evidence of union still, or at least an attempts at union all the way up until the 13th century. And there was even a council that was trying to reunify the two churches that was held right before the fall of Constantinople in the 15th century, so it didn't work. But
so if you go back that far, we'll assume for a moment that the church members were believers of Christ on both sides. So is the split on the dogma of the church, or what when we say he excommunicates one and he gets excommunicated again, what causes that? What's the rift in the belief system?
So the two primary issues that caused the split were, on the one hand, they claim to papal universal authority, that the Pope is the head of the entire church, and the addition of what's called the filioque to the creed. That is, the West changed the creed. They added in Latin one word, in Greek or in English 3 words. Filioque means "and the Son," saying that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Son as well as from the Father. The but while yes, these are dogmatic differences, what dogmas are not just like these are creedal statements that you have to say you believe in if you want to be a member of the church. This is how God has revealed himself to us. This is how we know God. And since everything that what it means to be a Christian is to know God, to love God, to become one with God, what we say about God, what we believe about God, how we know God is obviously going to change how we interact with him, or even whether we interact with him. So when we say doctrinal statements, creedal statements, these things are not just important, these things are absolutely vital. Because if, for example, you say that God is only one person and not three, well, then you have to start asking the question, are we even talking about the same person here? And there have been other things that have changed between West and East since 1054, since those... There were other things going on, some bigger, some smaller. Things like, do you use leavened bread or unleavened bread in the Eucharist? How are monks tonsured? Is it a complete shaving of the head, or is it just cutting a little bit of hair for 4 points on the head? And that last one, that's not actually an important thing, but one of the things that happened that made everything worse and made everything harder, and is still making things harder today, is that starting with the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the two halves of the Mediterranean started to grow apart culturally. Even when they were still all practicing the same faith and confessing the same doctrine, the Western half was speaking Latin, the Eastern half was speaking Greek. And that goes on, as that goes on for centuries, they just start to grow apart. Not catastrophically so, but century by century, it gets worse and worse. And that makes it harder to recognize the other, or rather, it becomes easier to see the other as other, and harder to recognize the other as the same.
Yet, in different languages, you might have been saying the same thing. Possibly?
Well, at that time, certainly. In 6th century, 7th century, 8th century, absolutely. In fact, so the Filioque originally came out of a small group in Spain. They had been Arians, they had been heretics, they were saying that Christ was not God at all. When they came back to Orthodox Christianity, that is small o, and big O at that time, they wanted to apparently really emphasize that Christ is God, and so they said not only is he the Son of God and co-equal with the Father and everything else, but also he is also the source of the Holy Spirit. And the Pope at the time actually rejected that and had the original Nicene Creed without the Filioque carved in marble tablets and put over the doors of St. Peter's to emphasize no, this is the correct creed. I think it was even in Latin and in Greek. So yes, absolutely at the time, different languages, and this is true of the Orthodox Church today. Those different local churches that I mentioned earlier. Most of those are organized along national and language lines, just because it's easier to govern, to administer a church whenever you're working with people who speak the same language and are within the same boundaries.
But again, if I go into one of the other Orthodox churches versus yours, I hear you do what you do in Greek.
Mostly in English now, but yeah.
Mostly in English. What you do, I noticed the last time I watched, you did some Greek. And the other churches will use whatever language they use. Basically, you're all saying the same.
As much as you can when you're speaking different languages. One of the... do I have a couple minutes?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let me take a break. Then we'll come back and
okay.
we'll explore that difference. We're talking to Father Timothy Cook here at, of course, the Greek Festival, getting ready to get started at noon today at St. Demetrius at McCarty and Mackinac in Saginaw. Let me take a moment to talk about something that's not fun to talk about, not fun to hit, potholes. Because we got lots of them around here in Michigan, and they can cause a great deal of damage to your car. So our friends at Quick Lane Freeland are offering you a complimentary alignment check. That's right. All you have to do is stop in, ask for it, and they'll be happy to take a look at your alignment and tell you whether or not you have any problems. And if you want to know how important alignment is, listen up, because I've got John from Quick Lane Freeland to
If
talk
your
about it.
vehicle's wheels are aligned correctly, it will not pull to the left or to the right when driving. It also prevents improper tread wear, so your tires last longer. A wheel alignment should be checked often because normal steering wear and tear can cause your alignment to go out, in addition to potholes and railroad crossings. A correct alignment also reduces rolling resistance on your tires for better fuel mileage.
And, of course, better safety, too. And, by the way, if your tires have been impacted, remember that our friends at Quick Lane Freeland sell all their new tires at just $5 over cost. Quick Lane Freeland offering you a complimentary alignment check. Stop in, ask for it today. They're on the McDonald Ford complex right there in Freeland. McDonald Ford and Quick Lane Freeland standing ready to help you with all your automotive needs for 2026. And we're back with you at the 2026 edition of the Greek Festival from St. Demetrius Greek Orthodox Church. It opens up at 12 noon today, and we'll have more on that. And we're talking to Father Timothy Cook, who is the priest here at St. Demetrius. And when we last left, we were talking about language.
Yes. So, one of the things that, we were talking about before we started, we were talking about a little bit of the beginning of the Old Testament. One of the things you find very, very early on in the Old Testament is that, initially humanity is all one people, one culture, one language. And then when they rebel against God, he divides them. And you get the beginning of the many cultures, many languages, many peoples. That's the curse of Babel, is that we are divided, that we no longer speak as one. And what happens at Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit descends on the apostles, is, we're all familiar with the story of them speaking in tongues. They start, each of them speaking the gospel, and that's an important detail. They're speaking the gospel in various languages.
And the obvious question is, where did the languages come from?
Well, so those particular languages that they're speaking, they're not random. So sometimes we look at this and we think, oh, this is kind of like a cool party trick to show that God is present, but not that it's not doing that, but there's always a deeper purpose. So there are in that day in Jerusalem Jews from all over the world, because the Jews have been scattered into the diaspora
right
by this point. Parthians, Elamites, Medes, they're still Jews, but they live from Persia to Babylon to Rome, and they speak those languages. They don't necessarily speak Hebrew and Aramaic anymore. And so those languages that the apostles are speaking are those languages of the people who have gathered to Jerusalem, so that everybody is hearing in their language, so that they can understand immediately the good news of the gospel of Christ. And this is the undoing of Babel. This is or really maybe the fulfillment of Babel, so that it is no longer a curse. And it's interesting because we're not all speaking the same language. You still have that fragmentation of cultures and languages, but they're all brought into unity not by speaking the same language, but by speaking the same truth and the same gospel and proclaiming and living the same faith. And what's really, really cool about this is that you can't translate, not really, anything from one language to another. Sometimes when they're in the same family of languages, you can get very, very close. But there is no, like in English, there is no word that corresponds to a similar word with the same concept in, say, Chinese. You get pretty close, but this is why translation work is so hard, because you can't actually make a one-for-one translation. You have to do your best to express the spirit of what's being said in one language with all the idioms and the complications of the other one. What's so cool about what happens on Pentecost is that you still have the one faith and the one gospel and the one Christ being proclaimed, but in all these different languages. But because languages are different...
Do we know that?
Yes. Because we're still doing this today. This is what, all those 17... I'm sure my number is wrong. I should probably have that number memorized now. But all those different churches that are all Orthodox, and they're all speaking different languages, but we're all proclaiming the same faith. But because languages are different, that means that so you're here at St. Demetrius and you hear the liturgy and you practice the Orthodox faith mostly in English. If you go to Greece, it's the same faith, but because it's a different language and a different culture, it's the same faith, but because it's unique for there's just a little bit more. And that means that as the gospel spreads from language to culture, the church is becoming more and more an image of the infinite God, where wherever you are, it's the same faith and the same church, but at the same time there is that infinite possibility of not that it's different, just that there's more. A new way of looking at it, a new way of understanding it, that you can go, no matter how deeply you go into it, no matter how deeply you experience God and His church, there is always more.
Yet, as you survey the world, believers in God and in Christ do not seem to be universal. We have probably, and I think I've said this to you before, over the millenniums, probably killed more people in the name of God than anything else. And there's, it's always fascinated me how between cultures who all profess the same faith don't seem to get along very well.
Well, You've put your finger on what is a sore for many, many people, and that's how can the church be perfect when it's filled with imperfect people? And the answer is, well, the people are imperfect, but the church is. Well,
this may be heresy.
The church is more than the people, because the church is from God.
Okay, so if we accept for a moment, and we do accept the fact this is all God's work. By its nature, is God perfect?
God is. Yes. That does not necessarily mean that all of His works are perfected. Because when He made us, when He made all of creation, but especially when He made us to be united with Him, to be in communion with Him.
Yet He gave us all these imperfections.
Well, He made us good, but what it means to be, perfectly one, that this is a communion of love, and love is free, which means that, He made us with that potential for communion, but that's something that we choose, that we grow together with Him. And that means that, yes, when He made us with the potential for this eternal life, for this perfect communion, but because we also have the option, the ability to reject Him, it means we also have this potential for, if you will, perfect death.
We'll pause on that and be back.
Not the place to end.
As we talk to Father Timothy Cook, the priest here at St. Demetrius Greek Orthodox Church. The Greek Festival gets underway at 12 noon today here at Mackinac McCarty. And if you have never been, you need to come, because even, you trust me, you don't have to be Greek to enjoy the food, the entertainment, the camaraderie that happens here at the Greek Festival. It runs today from noon to 11 p.m., tomorrow from 12 noon to 11 p.m., and Sunday 12 noon to 4 p.m. Are you going to do church tours?
1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 7 o'clock.
The answer is yes.
Absolutely.
Every day. If you have not been inside this magnificent building, you owe it to yourself, because one of the things you'll learn about Greek Orthodox is the use of icons. And it is a magnificent, magnificent structure. And you will also get to hear the wisdom of this man that I'm sitting next to. Lots of wonderful food, lots of great entertainment. It all happens right here at St. Demetrius Greek Orthodox Church. Our broadcast brought to you by Wolfiles, 5818 State Street. They've got a small handheld steel sale going on. They have one of the chainsaws, an MS-172C-E, $30 off. They have string trimmers, battery chainsaw, steel battery, self-propelled push mowers, all have discounts, and of course one of the largest steel displays in the area. Wall files, where service still is offered and means something. Stop in today. Wall Files, 5818 State Street in Saginaw. We will be back with Father Timothy Cook right after these notes.
Big insurance.
We are back with you at the Greek Festival, talking to Father Timothy Cook. So we'll get away from the deep stuff. What is, aside from a place to come and express your faith, what is the value of membership in a church like St. Demetrius?
I would say that the primary value is actually the opposite of like a place to come and express your faith. This is the place where we are formed in our faith. So I think we're talking about this in the church tours, but what it means to be a Christian since Pentecost, what it means to be a church is this is the temple of God, and what that means is that this is where God is. That's always been with the temple is always, this is where God is, this is where we go to meet Him. And the liturgy, the services that we, the prayers and the sacraments that are offered, consecrated, and then distributed in the church, these are what form us as Christians. So this is not a place where we come to express our faith. This is a place where we come to become Christians. This is where we are made Christians. This is where we are constantly becoming. There is no point when you look at yourself and, yes, I am, or if you ever look at yourself and say, yes, I am a perfect human being. I am finished. I am the perfect Christian. It's like, and now I have to go back to the beginning and start again because clearly I've gone way off the rails. Because there is always more. Even the greatest of the saints on their deathbed are saying, no, I'm not done. I need more time. So. This is really what the church is, that we're coming to meet God and to be changed by Him in His image, to be transformed into real human beings, real people, in the sense of in His image according to His likeness.
I guess my question would be, is the non-church goer any less a Christian? By that I mean, can you not have faith in God without an intermediary?
So those are a little bit of two different questions. So, to the first question, is a non-churchgoer less of a Christian? And I think the answer has to be yes. Because, not that you can't meet God outside of the church building, but, I feel like whenever I talk about this, what comes at least to my mind is, all right, so what's the most extreme situation? So say you have somebody who's stranded on a desert island.
No church.
Can't go to church. Like, is he necessarily less a Christian? Like, well, there's a difference, though, between not being able to go to church and then having the opportunity, having that, and even, especially for someone who's had the experience of God in the church, someone who has been baptized, who has been catechized, someone who is, and then says no. No, I'm not going to go seek God. I'm not going to go meet Him in the sacraments. I'm not going to meet Him in His people. Like, yes, absolutely less of a Christian because you've turned your back on the. But to the other question, which actually I've kind of forgotten what it was.
Do I need an intermediary?
Do you need an? Thank you.
30 seconds. That's all we
Then
got.
30 seconds. It's not that you need an intermediary to approach God, though if you're in a great state of sin, it's certainly helpful.
Yeah.
But it's more that these are God's people, these are God's family, these are His children, and you can't approach God without also approaching them, and you can't turn your back on them without also turning your back on Him.
Father, I look forward to this every year.
I do too.
We have fun. And if you have an opportunity, come on out to one of the church tours today or this weekend and meet Father Timothy Cook. Father, as always, my friend.
Good to see you, Art.
Shalom.
And peace be with you too.
Thank you. We'll be back to close out the hour, tell you what's ahead after these notes.
Got a home repair problem? Don't get mad.
All right, that'll do it for this first hour. We'll be back with more guests from the Greek Festival right after the news.
Broadcasting from the